everybody, my name is Lexi from Fandom, and I'm here bringing you today another fanfic that I read recently. And this one I like to call the OG because this one was actually written back when the first, I feel like, Deathly Hallows movie was coming out. So this is all the way back in like 2010, 2011. This is a enemies to lovers, so if you're really into enemies to lovers, this is definitely for you. I really enjoyed this one. It really brought that enemies to lovers feel that I was craving recently on full force, and this was a perfect, I feel like, introduction for somebody who wants to start reading Dramione fanfiction, just because this one really does a very good job of kind of explaining more of a way that makes sense based off their relationship in school and how it can develop into the love aspect of everything. This one is set right after Dumbledore's killed. Draco is basically on the run. He's in hiding with Snape because Snape is trying to protect him, and nobody knows where he is, so they're just in hiding. They've been like in hiding since like 6 months after Dumbledore's murder. So like we all know, with Snape, he made the unbreakable vow to protect Draco, and right now he's basically doing everything he can to try and basically keep him alive. So he is trying to protect him from Voldemort. Voldemort's basically trying to get him killed because he didn't fulfill his assignment to him, which was basically for him to kill Dumbledore. So since he didn't do it, he's like, well, I'm going to try and basically murder Draco. Of course, Snape doing his part of the vow and basically protecting him, they decided to go on the run and go in hiding. So nobody knows where they are. At this time, it's been like 6 months. So Snape comes to Hogwarts and talks to McGonagall. And he basically says, hey, I have Draco and I need a place for him to stay. And the safest place for him to stay would be here in Hogwarts. And she's like, what are you talking about? He basically tried to kill Dumbledore. There's no way that we're going to let him come in here and the students just be fine with him just roaming around the halls. And Snape is basically like, look, we just need a place for him to stay. He doesn't need to be out and about. Just keep him hidden somewhere in Hogwarts. That way Voldemort can't get to him. Then he ends up convincing McGonagall, and McGonagall's like, okay, I have the perfect person that I feel like would be good to keep him safe and will do what I ask regardless. So she thinks about Hermione. At this time, Harry and Ron are actually out looking for Horcruxes, and Hermione stays behind in order to help anything that happens within Hogwarts. She uses her whole time to like research about Horcruxes, see if she can kind of do her part in helping Harry and Ron, since they're out hunting for them, but she's doing her part with books and trying to figure out things at the actual school. She's also head girl, so she has her own dormitory area within the Gryffindor common room. But McGonagall basically approaches her and is like, hey, Snape is here with Draco. Draco needs to be hidden, and you're the perfect person that I feel can help me to fulfill this. And she freaks out. She's like, what are you talking about? Snape and Draco, Draco tried killing Dumbledore. Snape killed Dumbledore. What are you doing? We can't trust them. McGonagall's like, look, just trust me. Snape is on our side. We just need to hide Draco and away from Voldemort. And she just still doesn't understand. She's just so pissed off. Finally, she does give in and is like, okay, fine. So she has like her dorm is like I guess a 2-bedroom apartment in a way. So she has her bedroom and then an empty bedroom already that he's able to stay in. So he ends up staying there with her, and of course, since they hate each other, they come across a lot of situations to where it's so much hatred and just like back and forth, because obviously Draco being very prejudiced and just like disgusted by her because, her not being pure blood, and they go through all these arguments, and it's just like this whole whirlwind of just crazy back and forth of just bickering the whole entire time. So you really feel like it just makes sense how it's coming from this because of how they were before with how he treated her and how she just hates him because of it. And especially now that he's done all this stuff to where now he's a Death Eater and part of Voldemort's army and stuff. She's like, he's like a traitor. At this time, nobody even knows he's there, so she has him hidden there. He cannot leave. They have wards in her dorm to where he can't even leave anything. So he's just stuck. All he has is her as his entertainment. So he tries to basically every day torment her, because that is like his fun, because he's just bored out of his mind. He ends up growing attached to her unwillingly because he despises her, but in a way, since that's all he has, he kind of just looks forward to her being around, even though he doesn't like her. He craves that kind of angst between the two, and he just likes to pick fights with her. Throughout the process of them actually staying with each other, things start to happen to where they end up having feelings for each other. She's more willing to admit it more than he is. He's still very like, what are these feelings that I'm feeling? That there's no possible way that I can feel this way for her. This is just so weird. And the cool thing about this fanfic is it doesn't even come from just them falling for each other. It's kind of like she does things to him to make him realize that his way of thinking and the way he was brought up is completely wrong, and it's not okay. And that's the cool part about this fanfic, is that she just changes him and changes his viewpoints of things. And then he starts to realize and mature. And then that's when the feelings start being okay in his mind, to be like, okay, I could see that there's no reason I shouldn't like her. Just because she isn't pure blood doesn't mean anything. But he's the whole time obviously afraid of, not being accepted with his family. Even though he doesn't have the greatest relationship with his dad, he still has still loves his mom and doesn't want to be disowned. And he knows if they become something, that's what will eventually happen. And also during this time, like, everybody actually thinks that Draco's dead. Like, they haven't seen him for months, so they think, even his parents, they think he's dead. But he still feels like they're obviously still alive and fighting for the wrong side. So how is he actually going to come across being able to be with her and then have to deal with their prejudices that they instilled into him? So they come across these conflicts where it's just, how are they going to get through this? They end up leaving Hogwarts because Voldemort is obviously attacking Hogwarts, or his plan to attack Hogwarts starts to happen, and that's when they end up actually escaping and running away. They end up having to go separate ways, and Hermione knows like that she has to do this, but he's very much like he wants to stay with her, but she causes them to kind of split because she has like a port key, and she kind of tricks him to, so they end up separate ways. They don't know where each other's at, and that's the safest thing for them, to not know where each other's at. So they're like away from each other for I think about 2 or 3 months, and finally they get reunited, and then they go through the Battle of Hogwarts and everything. It goes a lot aligned to the books when it comes to that. So that's pretty cool. But they just add a few things here and there. He has different moments also during that time where he ends up confronting his demons and kind of being able to open up more about how he feels, because he's not really good at doing that in the first place. He's able to kind of come to terms with things and finally being able to discuss or preach his feelings. And when he does end up running away and escaping from the Battle of Hogwarts at that moment, when Voldemort's coming and attacking Hogwarts, and he takes the port key, he actually is met up with some familiar faces. So if you are a big Theo fan, expect Theo to be showing up in this one, which I was pleasantly surprised because I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. I figured it might have, but he does make an appearance. So it's him, Blaze, are obviously his 2 best friends, do make an appearance, and you find out that they also went against their parents and decided to help the Order. In the end, they fight the opposite side, of course, and against their parents. There's like one epilogue in this one. It really completes everything as far as their life, Draco and Hermione's life, but also these other characters. Andromeda is actually in this one, so I thought that was really cool. So she plays a big part in this one. Tonks and Remus is still, like, they play a part in this one. You have Andromeda's husband, Teddy. He's in this one. And you see how their relationship is made out of, like, this whole situation. It's kind of like good coming out of the bad. Draco feels, I guess, more accepted, at least, and not so much abandoned by his family, because Andromeda is his aunt. So it's cool to see how he ends up getting close with her within all this, even though he loses that from his parents, or at least loses that from his father. And his mom is actually more open-minded with the situation, but she is so set in her ways to where she does say, I'm gonna need time to kind of process everything, because as we know, Andromeda had the same situation where she ended up leaving and she was abandoned, or she was disowned by her family as well, because she fell in love with a Muggleborn. So it's like the same situation. I guess it hit in a way, since Draco goes through the same situation, his mom kind of like rethinks things, and you know, but Lucius is very set in his ways and is not having it. I feel like I really enjoyed this fanfic a lot. Like, it was just cool to, even though I don't really go for when they're actually in school, because they were like 17, and there are some parts in here that do get more in the smuttier side of things. It does get a little spicy. There's some parts in here that do get spicy, and then being 17 is kind of weird to me. But that's why I prefer when they're older. But this one is, to me, a good one to just go back, or just to go to, just to have that sort of build up, to make it make sense as far as coming from school and how their relationship progresses into something like love, and not to where a lot of other ones, even though I still enjoy these other ones, but it seems like these hidden feelings that they tend to have in these other fanfics are kind of not as realistic. Like, I could see a crush of some sort, like maybe like, I don't know, like, I guess like I'd be thinking of it one's attractive or something like that, but to base it on the behavior of things, I can't see Hermione being attracted to that. I can see Draco's part, him being attracted to her. That's why he's mean to her. It's like that whole weird, just because you're small, whatever, and you kind of pick at your crush. But I feel like with her part, I could see it being more she's attracted to him the way he looks, and maybe his mind, because he is really smart, but his character is just not it for her. So when they have it with these fanfics like this, to where they're immediately, of course, enemies, and everything we've known about them, they're enemies, but things happen to where she changes things for him and his viewpoint, and then it starts to make more sense, to where it's like, okay, now it makes sense that why they would fall in love. So I really like how that one is. It's kind of reminding me like how Secrets of Mask. Secrets of Mask was 9 years after Hogwarts, and they hated each other, completely hated each other. Like, nothing. Like, no history of them when they were younger, like each other, nothing, none of it. It was just purely hatred, because one side was here, the other side was here, two extremes, and then something happens to where they just end up coming together because of these feelings that just develop out of nowhere. So even though these are two very different fanfics, but the enemies to lovers aspect of it, to me, go hand in hand with how we view them already in the books and movies, if that makes sense. This one, to me, definitely is worth a read, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I know some people were complaining, I think, before on how it's written. It didn't bother me how any of it was written. I don't know. Like, I'm not expecting like a freaking like amazing written thing. To me, it was perfectly fine, and it was good. It was good to read. It kept me on it the whole time. It, like, there was things here and there, and every things that were popping up that was like, oh, like, you know, like it kept me very just engaged. It was cool, and there was things that happened that surprisingly I didn't cry. Like, I think because maybe I stopped a lot of times because I was doing other things. And maybe if I would have just kept reading it on for a longer period of time, it probably would have gotten me more. But there are parts in here that I'm like, oh, that for sure were tear-jerking parts. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, if you do enjoy that, the fanfics that have the friendship of Theo and Blaze and things like that, then you'll be happy to read this one because they are included in this one. And I was happy about that, since I wasn't sure that was going to happen, just because I know this was an older one. But this is obviously one that inspired a lot of other people who wrote fanfics, so it makes sense. I like how with Theo, he still had that same kind of personality he has in all the other ones. He's always like very humorous and just like a little bit of an asshole, but like he's more funny than anything. I feel like he can kind of be an asshole when he wants to be, but then he's also a big joker. You really see that in this one coming through for him. There's another oddly paired couple in here too that I don't want to say who it is, but I was just like, oh, I wasn't expecting that one. So it kind of mirrored like Draco and Hermione's in a way. That's all I'll say with that. I am already on my next fanfic. Fanfic I have chose to read next is I Will Make You Proud. This one I have been on the fence about for a while, just because I know like the premise basically is like Draco basically committed suicide and he left behind vials of his memories. He left behind diaries, and Hermione finds his body, and she is an Auror. She finds his body, and then it goes from there. I was kind of like, well, I'm very much like, I want Hermione endgame here. Like, I don't want to read about him dying and then I'm like, she's just trying to figure out. It's just, to me, it's just not what I was wanting to read. But I've heard so many good things about it. And then finally, I kind of like left it off, put it off for a while, went back, kind of looked that over again, and I decided, let me look at the tags. And I noticed in the tags, there was something that said time travel. That just changes everything, doesn't it? Because that, to me, gives me hope for something I've been wanting, which is like them two together, obviously, because that's why I read these. I love when they're together. So I'm excited to read this one. I already started actually today. I finished this one today, and then I started the next one already. And I'm almost like 10% in. And I'm really enjoying it so far. So we'll see how that one is. That'll be the next one that I'll be talking about. And yeah, so thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you next time on either an unboxing or a fanfic discussion, just anything and everything. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.